Frostborn just came out with another huge update, and I know a lot of you guys are upset about it, and I'm upset too, but not for the reasons that you're upset about it. Alright, so as usual, the Frostborn devs made another huge update. It is just absolutely ginormous, and there's a lot to it. So let me go kind of break it down into different areas. And in this, unlike some of my hidden changes videos, I'm going to give some of my opinions on this because I know you guys have been asking over and over again, what is your opinion on this update? I have some very different opinions than you guys do, and I'll explain why. I'm looking long term. I think some of you are kind of like, oh my gosh, they're destroying the game. But if you look at it long term, some of those things aren't as concerning as you might think they are. But then there are some other things that are very concerning. So I'm going to explain a little bit about that. So the first change that they made was optimization. That was the main change that they did. They said most of the changes that we made were actually stuff you can't see. Less lag, better servers, all of that stuff. Everything in the game just works better. If that is truly the main thing they worked on, then this is a great update. Hands down, this is a great update because that is the main thing they need to work on. That is what we need to be able to do global, is to have the game optimized. So if that is the main thing they worked on, then this is a great update because they need to optimize the game. The second category of changes that really is just a huge aspect is that they improved the graphics of the game. Again, I can't believe Frostborn already had one of the best graphics of any mobile game I've known, and they were able to improve it again. So through some of these weapons, obviously they changed the family sword, the piercing dagger, they changed pretty much all of the bows, or the poison bow, the frost bow, they changed the ebonite dagger, the ice fang looks so much cooler, fire dagger looks way different, all of these weapons. You know, this is infamous now because they say it looks like a potato pillar, if you guys haven't seen those memes going around. Personally, I think it looks really awesome. The cleaver looks way cooler now, but it also does kind of look like a potato peeler. Gray cutter's different, the dragon bow's different, even the 5-shot crossbow, even though it's not very different, it does look a little bit different. So they made a ton of graphic changes. It accounts for a ton of the changes, but they also made some other changes that you might not have noticed. For example, they'll also notice where you hit the axe against the shield, which is a really cool touch, and there's a bunch of other animations. He looks down, he looks around, and each of the weapons have their own animation. They flip the dagger, so they'll do different things, like the fire dagger, he just kind of moves around. Each of them have their own. There's a ton of those changes. Another huge change that they made is that they got rid of energy. You can see, you can, travel anywhere as much as you want. There is no energy in the game anymore. Now there's still some internal energy, so if you're trying to spawn events, you do need to travel a lot, but it can be a little difficult. We are kind of doing as much research as we can on what spawns different events, but it's a lot more elusive now on what actually makes an event spawn. Invisible energy still does affect those zones and when they're going to appear. Now that being said, the devs did make the announcement that this is a temporary thing, just for the summer. Personally, I think that just means they're wanting to try it out. They want to see how we react to it. So if I were you guys, I wouldn't get too attached to not having any energy because there's a good chance it could show back up in the game at the end of the summer. They did say it was temporary. I'm not exactly sure what they're planning on doing with that, but for now, for the rest of the summer, we get to have 0 energy. The next thing they added to the game is that you can now use what are called marks to auto farm a zone. They stole this, I'm assuming, from LDOE, which already has this, where you can just automatically get resources from the zones. Personally, I think this is a somewhat good change. I think that there are things about this change that are good. I definitely want Frostborn to be able to monetize their game, but there is also something very concerning about this change, and that is mainly that you can also use them here for Odin's. It doesn't show up right now because I haven't gone to Odin since the new update, but as soon as I do, I'll be able to use marks, and it's expensive. It's a lot of marks to do Odin's, but it allows a player to not play the game. They can just spam marks on Odins. They can get fire bows and fire daggers. But honestly, I think this is a horrible change because it crosses a line that Frostborn has never crossed before. Things in Frostborn kind of make sense. They're intuitive into the game. If you're going to spend money, then it's intuitive in the game that, I got a backpack. I bought a better backpack and now I can play the game better. I bought the instigator armor and now I can play the game better. But this is no longer playing the game. You just spam, get resources. So I really do not like this change. I think that this bodes poorly for Frostborn. I don't think it fits in the idea of Frostborn. I've made the recommendation to them to make marks differently. Say you're on the first floor, you throw down some marks and it just clears the floor. Everything just insta dies, and then you can go pick everything up. You get to experience what it's like to actually play the game, but everything just died for you. So you get, oh man, if I did this, I would get to open this chest. It still gives them that sense of like, what is going to be in this chest? It still gives them the sense of, oh man, I grabbed these pendants and I went and I got the cash and I didn't know what was in the cache, and then I opened the cache and I got it. They would be able to keep the real sense of the game without just giving it to people. I just think that's a very money grab type of thing. Not that the Frostborn devs are trying to money grab. I'm just saying they're copying games that are trying to money grab. It's not like Last Day on Earth was the first game to do that. Lots of games have done stuff like that. It doesn't really make sense with the sense of the game, but it is allowing people to just get resources by spending money. And I want the devs of Frostborn to know, I want them to monetize their game and make a ton of money. I think they're going to make a ton of money off this game, but I don't think it is good for them to make it to where it's disconnected from the game. Furthermore, because now someone can just spam marks on Odins and do Odins, and then they get twice as much. And so if you make it to where it clears Odins, then not only are their teammates going to be really happy that they spent the money, oh man, we didn't have to go, grind a bunch of green weapons to go do Odins. You just used marks to clear it, but they still are doing it. They're still opening those chests. They're still getting there, or at least at an animation of them doing it, like try to pretend like they're doing it. I don't like it. I don't like the way that they did it because I think that they were just copying Last Day on Earth. I'm sure that type of monetization is making a lot of money for Last Day on Earth, and I think it's a good monetization system. They just have to do it in a way that makes sense with the game. Otherwise, it breaks the game. It's not good for free-to-play players because it's an unfair advantage, and it's not good for paying players because they're not really in touch with the game when they do it that way. So I do not like marks, at least the way they implemented it. I think that they should reevaluate how they're implementing it, put a little more thought into it. I feel like they just copied it. Don't copy the other game. It doesn't fit with your game. Take the concept and make it fit with your game, and then it'll be a good thing. And then you monetize it. It's a win-win. You get the win, and then the players get the win. But don't just copy another game because it's crap. It doesn't fit in the game. The next thing they added into the game is the Gifts of Odin. They cost a lot of coins to be able to get them, but then each one gives you 180 mastery points. So if you use 1,200 coins to buy 10, you're getting 1,800 mastery points. That's more than if you were just a pay-to-win player and you were just buying weapon packs. That was, I think, you'd get a mastery point. You get about 1.2 mastery points per coin used, and so now you're getting 1.6, I think. Per coin used. So it's a little bit better. It's also a lot easier just to buy them, and it's a lot faster approach. And so again, I don't have a problem with this if they fix the mastery system. I think that I saw a thing the devs put the other day where they said, oh yeah, like you can use your level 3 classes because anyone who's been active has a level 3 class. And I'm like, oh, I had a little bit of problems with the level 3 classes, but if the devs are so out of touch that they think that all active players have 1 or 2 level 3 classes, I understand that there are some people that are incredibly active, there are some people that are incredibly pay to win that have some level 3 classes. But if they think that almost all active players have level 3 classes, then they are completely out of touch with their player base. But again, the way to fix this class system is just to separate it. You go Hunter 1, then Hunter 2, than Hunter 3. You don't have to grind for the 2 classes you don't want to get the 1 class that you do want. If they did that, then they would be able to keep maximum grind level. They'd still be able to make just as much money from the people that want to max all their classes, and they would also be able to take care of their player base that isn't able to grind 36,000 points just to get that one, or 40,000 points or whatever it is, to get that 1 class that they're wanting. The system is not favorable to their player base for a free-to-play player. But that's an old problem. The gifts to Odin, great change. Not bothered by the gifts to Odin, but still bothered by the old change that they haven't bothered fixing yet. And then the next big change is that they added a death cam. And the death cam, I mean, it gives you a full report of who did what damage, how much damage they did with each of the things they used, who got the last hit. I just think this is an incredible change. This is the final step to them having a AAA game. It like tightly, it puts a bow on it. I just love this change. Really makes PvP make a lot more sense. I think they need to have a few more PvP zone events to really make it a AAA game, but this is an incredible change. Just an absolutely perfect change. I love it. They made it to where lockpicks no longer stack. So if you have a stack and you split them, you can no longer bring them back together, making it a lot harder to raid people and raid all of their chests. You can only have 1 lockpick per chest that you need. Even just transferring them over to a new chest is going to split them up. And I'm pretty sure taking these 10 into my inventory is going to split them up. So, you know what? I'll split it. Okay, so you can split it. And maybe it's possible. Okay, I'm going to try it. Okay, so you can only take 1. Okay, that's fine. So you can keep them stacked. Keep them stacked as long as you can, because once you take them out, they're going to be separate forever. They also added a Raider's Pick, which uses to open a massive chest. It's 1 lockpick for 1 massive chest, which again, I think is a great change. You can get these Loki's runes in the Sanctum of Odin. They're super rare, and so making this, this lockpick super rare, but that's great because a massive chest is hard to get, and so now they're making it hard to raid a massive chest. It makes your massive chest very safe, which is really nice. They also made all lockpicks personal. So once you not only can you not stack them, but no one can take them from you, which in some ways is good. I like that. I think that there's some real benefit to that, but in other ways, it's going to make lockpicks a lot more rare. It's going to make it to where if you have lockpicks, you can't even give it to a teammate. So I don't like everything about this change. I think it's good, but I think they need to tweak it. They need to find a way that we can exchange that personal item because, trading lockpicks is a big part of the game. And so, and not to mention if someone raids you and you kill them, that's one of the best ways to get lockpicks. So I made the suggestion that if personal items are able to be bestowed to the person that owns that property after that time is gone, after the rating window is done, which would allow there be at least 1 way to transfer personal items. It would have to be intentional. You'd have to bring that personal item to that person's base and then lose it, die. You'd have to die, and then they would have to defend that item until the end of that raid, which people usually do anyways because you were raiding them. They don't want you to get your sledgehammer anyways, but this way it would actually make it to where they could keep it if they were successfully able to defend your personal items that you had left there long enough until that raiding time was over, then they could claim it as their own. So hopefully the devs will listen to that advice, but overall, this is a pretty good change. Another huge change that the devs made is that items on your inventory stay on you when you die. So if I went to a zone right now and died, I would lose nothing. They would literally, a backpack wouldn't even drop. There would be nothing for them because all of my armor, all of my weapons, my backpack, my equipped items, will stay. All of it comes back with me. It still loses durability, but it all stays on me. And I know you guys are really upset about this change. That's a cool animation I hadn't seen yet. I know a lot of you guys are really upset about this change, and let me give you a little bit of perspective of why. I understand this is a big change, but at the same time, it might not be as bad as you think it is. So first, let me recognize that I understand this change completely changes the game as we know it. Frostborn doesn't really have a whole lot of point to it yet. I mean, there's not like a leaderboard. There's not like a, oh yeah, we did this. You just go farm resources. And then the way we have made Frostborn a lot of fun is we go in PvP and we get to take people's stuff. Ultimately, we're losing durability. We all end up losing in the long run, but it's at least really exciting to kill someone and then get that loot. It's just it's a thrill. And so this completely destroys. I mean, we've made Frostborn fun even with what content it has, and we keep it fun by doing that, and it ruins that. So I understand this is a huge, and from that perspective, a horrible change. But hopefully Frostborn is not going to keep it that way. I mean, we love the game as it is, but hopefully they're going to add stuff like the burial grounds, but even more fun stuff like an arena, maybe a little mini game, something in which we're going to go to try to get really good loot, and we want to bring our best gear, but we don't want to lose our best gear, because really the goal is whatever that event is, that's what's going to have the amazing loot that we want. And if they make those changes, if they add those events, then it's actually kind of nice that we keep our gear, because really the focus is going to be that item. We're not even going to want to pick up other people's gear and flip through it, because really we're going to want to focus on the event, and we don't want to have to go back into our base, get a bunch of other new gear, and then come back to that location. So ultimately, if they add those things, which we all think that we're hopefully going to add, because that would make it a truly AAA game, then if they add those, then it's actually a great change. So what is concerning to me is that when the devs saw all of your rage, they said, hey, this is a temporary change. We're going to see how it goes until the end of the summer. That partially concerns me, because I'm like, okay, do y'all guys know what you're wanting to do? I mean, if you made this change for a future update, then just say, hey, we're making this change for future stuff. You're going to love it eventually, but we understand you don't love it now. They didn't say that. They said, well, we might change it in the summer. And so that's first a little concerning. I'm like, wait, you are going to add those events, right? Because that's what we're really wanting. We would really want an arena. We really want those type of things. That would be the ultimate thing. I hope you're going to add those. But the other concerning thing about it is now they've mentioned two things that they're trying out for the summer, which means that global probably isn't going to happen until after the summer is over. So that is really discouraging to me, because I was really hoping global would happen sometime soon. Oh well, that's I guess how it goes. And then the last category of changes, which was an absolutely crazy change, is that they changed how you make armor. Armor is now way more diverse. They added bone fasteners, they added chains, which they desperately needed to do. They added glue, they added a lot more soul stones, they added pliers, which again, these are great changes. Adding more resources into the pile of what we're going to be using is a really good change. That being said, some of you are probably upset that they changed the shovel. Obviously, the shovel is no longer, the guaranteed super efficient weapon of the game, because, having fish glue is, even though we can get fish glue, it's not easy. And so this really nerfs the shovel. I have mixed feelings about this change, because obviously the shovel was a huge part of the game. It is sad that they nerfed the shovel. It's going to make doing Odin's a lot more difficult. But they did add classes, which that makes Odin's a lot easier. So it kind of evens out if you include how much easier classes made doing Odin's, but it is really frustrating that we can't just build a ton of shovels, and so we've got to be a little bit more creative as we're tackling Odin's. Overall, this is a good change. There's just a few things that I wish the devs would kind of have factored in when they were doing this. So the first one, what I just said about the shovels, is that even though I like that they, kind of balanced all the weapons and balanced all the resources a little bit, they made the resources more difficult. For example, the strong sword and shield is now a little bit more difficult. It also requires fish glue. The bone mace requires leather strips. So they made it a little bit harder to have that second tier weapon. That bothers me a little bit, because some people might say, oh, the shovel's OP, we need to nerf the shovel. And I would say, well, maybe nerf the shovel a little bit, but you need to make all of the other weapons a lot better, because the amount of resources we have to get those weapons. But again, this is not that big of a deal. I would say that the shovel and the sword and strong sword and shield are just a little bit more expensive than I think would be ideal, and that could just be a difference of opinion on what I want versus what they want. But where I think the devs are really kind of honestly out of touch is in like the rusty dagger. They made the rusty dagger even more expensive. 3 iron ingots to build a weapon that has the lowest DPS in the game. And I get that you can use the rusty knife with your classes, which makes it pretty awesome because, you know, with the rogue 2, I can still, with that Loki strike, I can get a one shot on someone in the green zone. I can do 42 damage, which is really cool. But honestly, it's not cool enough to be worth, you know, smelting iron ingots for it. So personally, what I think they should do is make this 6 iron ore, or honestly, I think 3 iron ore, and then that would make the rusty knife a lot better. I think the apprentice staff is okay. Again, I would probably change it to 2 iron ore instead of iron ingots because it doesn't really make sense that a first tier item requires smelting an iron ingot. I think just let them use iron ore. There's nothing in this weapon that looks like there's an iron ingot. So just use iron ore. It just makes it feel a lot more like a tier 1 weapon. Same thing with the bow. Just make it 2 iron ore. It just not having to smelt something makes it feel more like a tier 1 item. Same thing with the Staff of Support. And I go back and forth on the Sword and Shield. I'm glad they added the chain. They could change that to iron ore. Something about the Sword and Shield. I don't know if it's because the warrior already has some weapons that are pretty awesome for it, but I still might change it to iron ore on that. But definitely on the other weapons, I think making it iron ore is going to make it feel more like a tier 1 weapon. Oh, I forget the club. The club is, you know, you can use it as a warrior, and so that's the reason why the Sword and Shield, I kind of go back and forth. You don't need an iron ingot to make a club, which gives the warrior a tier 1 weapon that he can use, which doesn't require an iron ingot. So overall, this is an amazing change. Balancing, making all of the resources worth more. I mean, we've all got like, what, 200 pliers that we don't even know what to use, and so there's at least some purpose for using those. I think they should actually add pliers into more places. This is a great start. They're bringing in some of those useless items into the pool. This is great. So definitely, I think changing and improving on the level 1 items, maybe making the tier 3 items just a little bit cheaper. And then of course, adding more tier 4 and tier 5 items would be awesome because it just makes the game feel more finished if we're able to start crafting those. Even if they're really expensive, it still would be nice to be able to start crafting those. Well, that's it, guys. Hope that helps. Obviously, I didn't show as many changes as I normally do, and I gave a lot more opinions than I normally do. When Frostborn Global comes out and a lot more people want to watch these videos, I'll go back to my original style where I am just covering all of the changes first. Maybe I'll give my opinion at the end, but I cover all of the changes right away at first. But until Frostborn Global comes out, I might do some more videos like this. All right, guys. See you next time.